Cool. Thanks everybody for joining us today, as always. Great to see those of you with your video on. Couple announcements today, and then we have special guest Lucio from the Marinade Finance team is going to, and Michael as well from Marinade is here, going to go over a couple things that they asked to present to the community today. So just as a reminder, like these calls, this is for you guys. This is community time and space. So if anybody in the future has a topic or a very short presentation that they want to present to the community as it relates to network or documentation or staking or stake pools, which is what we're going to hear about today, or RPC best practices, wide open. Just kind of want to make sure everyone in the community is informed and that we can all kind of learn together. So if anyone else has something in the future they want to present, just let me know, or feel free to just jump in the future and catch me off guard. Your choice. Cool. First thing, Tim, did you have anything on network updates? I think things are pretty quiet on that front.
Yeah, nothing too big to report this time. 1.10 is being worked on by the engineering team. The big update there is going to be the Quick protocol. So the initial implementation of Quick is wrapping up, and now they're getting into testing. So the testing on this will probably be a pretty long time frame, just because it's a pretty big shift in how UDP is being sent on the TPU port. So just keep that in mind. There'll be a good amount of testing before Quick is out in the wild. And that's it.
All right, thanks. Cool. I just wanted to spend a minute following up also. I know there's been quite a lot of chatter recently about some churn in the delegation program in the foundation. Just want to let folks know, Tim and Ella have been working diligently, kind of basically like retroactively, like checking all of our participant records, making sure that everyone who has signed up for the foundation program is should be eligible to do so vis-a-vis legitimate applications, not running duplicate validators from the same person, which is out of the rules of the program. So long story short, found a disappointingly large group of people who have been, I'll say, in violation of the program rules, and are pretty much have been confined to testnet, people that have been in the testnet queue, and will not be receiving any stake from the foundation on testnet or mainnet going forward. There's been a tremendous influx of interest in this program, particularly with the increased popularity of Solana over the last 12 months. And unfortunately, a lot of people got through that we're now going to be saying goodbye from the program. So we are internally working on tightening up our kind of KYC and sign up processes. We've been doing kind of some spot checks, talking with a lot of people who have signed up for the program, who have been, working on stuff in testnet, but perhaps are, not so present in the community. Just kind of following up. We want to make sure that, the quality of our validator community, is high and remains high. So we're going to kind of continue doing these ongoing checks in the future. So I just kind of wanted to pass that along. What that does mean, though, I know there have been some people that I think have been rightly frustrated, who have been kind of in the testnet queue, working hard for a number of months, and it felt like there were some people that were behaving improperly in the program, trying to take advantage of some stuff that we're sort of adjusting the onboarding queue in their favor in ways that were unfair. We've identified a large group of those people that are going to be ejected from the program here very shortly. So that's what I got to say there. Any other questions on that? Otherwise, I will hand it over to the Marinade team here in just a sec. Okay, awesome. Michael, Lucio, from Marinade, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Dan. I'm Lucio from the Marinade team. First, a brief introduction of what Marinade is, but I think everybody here knows. We are the first liquid staking solution for Solana. We are Solana native, and we are bootstrapped. We never got some busy money to start with. Our objective is to decentralize Solana. We believe that the price of Sol should go up as more censorship resistant the network is. So we saw a problem. This is a general problem for all proof of stake chains, is that users tend to stake with the top validators just because they are on the top of the list. So that tends to concentrate the stake and making the network, let's say, not so censorship resistant as it should be. So the objective of Marinade is to increase the Nakamoto coefficient for Solana. How do we do that? We have an open source automated validator scoring. We started with the foundation Stake-O-Matic code, but we now have heavily altered that. And we keep a record of validator performance for all epochs, but we use the last 5 epochs of validator performance, commissions, epoch credits, and we create a rank. With that rank, we stake what the users deposit in us. What we do also, this is liquid staking, we give the user a token that is called MSOL. So the advantage of liquid staking is that the capital, instead of being just locked into the validators, goes back to the DeFi ecosystem to allow, let's say, the ecosystem to grow. Also, we are trying to get free SOL that is going around into the ecosystem to be able to put it into validators. Because if you have some SOL that is going around and is doing mostly nothing, it's way better to stake that SOL and get them SOL that gets APY on top of that. I don't know if there's any question or I am preaching to the core. Everybody knows what Marinade is. Okay. Besides that, we are about to launch a new way of distributing the stake. Let's say since we started, we have a very active channel where we have several validators that are participating in there, and we get a lot of feedback, and we have adjusted heavily the delegation strategy with the feedback of the validators. But we are now about to launch a very, let's say, novel way to distribute the stake. There's a proposal in the Marinade forum where we are gonna destinate at least 10% of current Marinade stake. That Marinade stake is about 6.5 million SOL. We're gonna, instead of having the 100% of those 6.5 million distributed by the scoring system automatically, we will separate 10%, and that 10% we will distribute it based on MNDE token holders vote. We expect with that to be, let's say, to provide a little more support for validators that are active in the ecosystem. So this is about to be launched, and one of the things or one of the reasons for what we wanted to be here is to listen to get feedback from you, because it is in our DNA to adjust the delegation strategy for the validator community, because at the end, I think everybody is long on SOL, And if we increase Nakamoto coefficient, this is in the interest of everybody. I don't know if Michael, do you want to add something?
No, I would say it was like all said. I didn't even know if I'm gonna make it, but I'm like here more to listen than to talk. So if there's a lot like opinions or any feedback, and we're trying to answer the questions in the chat now, so we're happy to do so. But I think that Lucio got it pretty covered. Yeah, so thanks for that. Maybe a note like that the decentralization is just such a broad topic, the word, like what does it mean? And it meant maybe something from the beginning that it was this meme of 10K validators, I think, on Solana. And we've seen it's been evolving and changing, like the term, depending on, let's say, the data concentration and just different aspects of the word, really. So that's another interesting topic that we could be talking for quite a long time if needed. But besides that, any like comments or feedback on the proposal now live on forum that Marinade might be considering allocating part of the staked salt to be influenced or voted by the governance token? Does any of you have a feedback? I've seen like a lot of messages in the chat, but happy to hear you out.
Yeah, I think so.
I will be answering. Sorry.
So to put my 2 cents in, I think that, like as I mentioned in chat, I think the biggest deal is the Nakamoto coefficient. Like I think the foundation program already does a really good job of onboarding new validators and giving them a chance to try kind of getting that at least that close to break even, if not a little past into profit, and then kind of giving them a chance to keep growing. But what I think is missing right now is an incentive for whales to not be staking on their own private validator or just kind of a top 20 validator. So like anything that Marinade does, in my opinion, should be geared towards how do we attract stake as an ecosystem away from the top 20, or really, I mean, like let's say like the top 50. How do we get away from the top 50 and into just the other pool, like and away from that to increase the Nakamoto efficient? In my opinion, a big piece of that is going to be basically subsidizing some of the DeFi activities. Right now, we see like Lido made a huge jump up in sort of the Lido stake pool, but they are mostly with the top 20 and the top 50. And in my opinion, that sort of decreases the overall value of the network. So like that's where Marinade can take an interesting value add stand, is how do we attract, and that's basically being competitive. And if you see Lido went from a very small amount of stake to, I think maybe over, but at least in the DeFi space, well over what Marinade is, because they have a far higher spend. So how does that work out is basically they're using their DAO token to subsidize that. So what Marinade can do is make a positive price action on their MNDE token to basically make the value of their existing liquidity mining programs to attract stake. And I do think stake ends up being pretty sticky. Not all stake is sticky, but yeah, that's my 2 cents. That's where I think sort of the biggest play. And so how to make the proposal you guys are talking about maximize on that price pressure, that's something that I'd be thinking about. I think that's going to be like the most critical component, because there is an interesting thing to encourage community engagement. I think that is valuable, but I wonder if there's if you could split up like half of that with something like where only validators can kind of vote amongst themselves. So like there's an actual MNDE price competition amongst validators, as opposed to and actually valuing that stake where it actually is, because it's pretty high, like the price. But if it's sort of diluted across your entire MNDE holdership, then then an individual validator trying to sort of buy their way in or actually pump up the price and capture some of that value, it's diluted across the entire MNDE holdership. So it's something you could consider. I mean, I haven't really thought through that completely, but it might make sense to have a component where it's really just validators price, like where they're doing price discovery against each other to find out how much is that chunk of Marinade stake worth. And that can drive up the price for everything that Marinade does, not only kind of the liquidity mining, but also your other programs that you might want to do within the community, giveaways, or whatever it is that you guys do, or even just hiring the right people. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Oh, that's perfect. Then you pretty you described what we are planning to do. The voting is quite novel and quite interesting. We are minting NFTs that have MND locked inside, and the entire voting system will work like vote escrow, like Curve and now Balance are doing, and it will be like a permanent lock. You will keep the MND locked until you decide it will be no longer locked. So I think we are innovating in a nice way, and we hope to achieve what you described, let's say, to have more firepower in order to avoid people being bought, let's say. The stake is being bought right now, so it is not a good direction in our view.
Yeah, couple thoughts on that. I really appreciate everyone's input. Well, first question actually for Marinade. I pasted the proposal link in the chat. It's quite lengthy if someone hasn't seen it before. Can you maybe put a link to, I don't know if discussion is open in the comments there, or if you're having conversation in the Discord, or like if someone reads it after the meeting, where's the best place for them to go to continue the conversation?
Discussion is open in the comments.
Okay, all right, great. Cool. So second thought, just something that's a bit of an aside, but related to Ben's point about, how can we encourage more whales to move their stake from, whoever they sticky stake to at the top of the list. One thing, just for kind of general awareness, like a lot of the large token holders hold their SOL in like institutional custodial accounts. And a lot of these institutional custodians don't have like app support for liquid staking or other protocols on chain. This is something that, and so like the token holders only option is either, stake with someone from a drop-down list, or, in the worst scenario, stake with the one provider that this custodian has, an exclusive contract with. This is something at Foundation, we're working on this at Foundation, like we're working with as many custodians as possible to get support for liquid staking and other, I'll say more advanced staking strategies to be able to expose this, to a lot of these large holders. Because some people simply, based on the way they're holding their tokens, those don't have the option. And so there is some kind of, this sort of like, this is like an off-chain, it's almost more of like a business problem that's not really as visible if you just look at like the staking distribution or the on-chain activity. Yeah, if any of you guys are also, customers, users, or have contacts at your custodian of choice and you want to rail them to add support for your favorite liquid staking protocol, like go forth, community. But no, like we're aware of this and we're working on that, from that angle as well. So that's kind of one thought.
Dan, real quick, yes. I hadn't really heard that interesting information kind of about the big custodians. I've always kind of, to me is a big mystery around, a lot of the, like how that stake is being held. Do you have maybe more like where like validators can learn about like how that stake is being held up, what custodians are holding it? And if it's not knowable things, that's fine. But like that is something of curiosity to me, and I'm sure other validators.
I don't know if I have those numbers or if they are entirely knowable. I mean, I know it's not an insignificant amount. But yeah, it's hard for me to know exactly who. But a lot of the, I'll say like larger institutional holders, might also be a little more risk averse with, say, for example, potentially depositing a large dollar value of SOL into a smart contract, for example, versus like directly into the stake program, which, has been audited and beat with a hammer, since before we ever launched mainnet. And so there's sort of some safety things, there's kind of just some behavioral things that are really hard to reflect, when we just look at the on-chain data that should also be kind of considered here as well.
Do you see that changing kind of over time as some of that SOL becomes unlocked?
I do. I think it's simply just like some of it is time, some of it is like trust is built with consistency over time, right? So as contracts, like Marinade, continue to hold large amounts of value over a long period of time, and people begin to have an increasing amount of trust in the ecosystem, and then the certain known players. That SOL though is that's all unlocked though. I know you had mentioned like, as that SOL unlocks. I mean, it's all it's all liquid. To the best of my knowledge, anyway, most of it should be.
That's a great idea. I think we are exploring that, and we are keen on expending time and effort into let's say become compliant for at least 2 or 3 custodial services. I guess it's known who are the custodial services more used for initial, let's say, Solana investors.
Well, one other thought I had, this is a little unrelated, but I was just looking at Michael's comment about when you were talking about like the voting power for MNDE. Michael said, maybe we can assign additional voting power to MNDE held by the withdrawal authorities of vote accounts. I know we do this on like for the delegation program, we for like identifying something that we call self stake. It's like, okay, we say withdrawal authority on your stake account should match the withdrawal authority on your vote account, and this is how we designate or identify accounts that are held by the same entity or the same person. Ideally, like the withdrawal authority on a vote account, like this owns your vote account, right? It holds all the funds. Like you can use it to change the identity. If you lose or steal the withdrawal authority, someone can steal your entire vote account and all of its delegations. So as a result, like this key should be ideally like infrequently used and kept very secure in cold storage, compared to say something you might vote in a DAO, right? Maybe you have a hot wallet that contains your DAO tokens that you use more frequently, and so it's maybe not a great idea to have your withdraw authority kept under the same level of security as your daily voting DAO hot wallet. One possible solution to this is, again, I'm just sort of thinking like how this could be used a little more broadly, but the SPL token program has this concept of like you can delegate tokens that you own to a different wallet address that can then spend them on your behalf. So for example, you could have, say, MNDE tokens that are owned or issued by the withdrawal authority, but are delegated to your hot wallet for actual use. And so you can still correlate the owner or like the original recipient of those tokens without having to continuously expose and sign with your withdraw key. And there might be other models to, do something like this, right? You can, generate an NFT from your withdrawal authority once in a while and assign it to your various DAO token wallets or something like that, to represent that I am the owner of this vote account because I signed once with my withdrawal authority, and any tokens, held under some derivative key are therefore, provably held by the owner of the validator without exposing that key with any frequency. Just a thought.
Yeah, I think that second option is one of the best, because you say, okay, I'm the owner of this vote key. You say it once, and then the new account gets, let's say, registered as the owner of the operator of the validator.
Right.
Yeah, Dan, kind of referencing some of the conversations in chat. Has the foundation, or really just Solana, considered the thought of a minimum commission, something like 1, 2, maybe 3%? I know it's popped up many times before. I haven't really heard any opinions come from the foundation or labs themselves.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, the minimum commission, that's a tricky one. I don't have a great answer for you there. Yeah, so you're on mute.
I was saying that's totally fine. I was just wondering if it's something you guys have talked about, something that's come up. I certainly wouldn't expect an answer there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, basically, it's come up a number of times, and I think there are kind of like economic arguments on both sides of, should there, should not be minimum, should there, should not be maximum. Or actually, I saw there was a comment about the maximum. That was actually the first time I had seen someone advocate for like a non 100% maximum, which I don't think is a great choice. Yeah, I think there's enough here, and like we don't want to be like, the foundation has right, a lot of influence, just given the size of the treasury and how we choose to deploy it. Like, this is something we hope to reduce over time, and really let like kind of like the free market of validator competition and competition for stakers like really drive, rather than us dictating like minimum or maximum fee schedules or anything like that.
Yeah, because I guess one of my concerns, and I think I'm maybe past one of the major humps, but it's pretty difficult for someone say like that can't be supported, whether they're in a country that's not, or for whatever reason can't get the foundation stake, to start a new validator. And that's arguably if we increase in that validator count is even a good thing. But if it is, then the presence of 0% stake makes that very tough. You basically have to be 0% to attract native stake at this point, or a meaningful amount. And even then, just with the stake movement, which may change over time, it can be a challenge. It's definitely something that I think is worth considering, and worth maybe even just talking to the community about it, because yeah, maybe it helps the validators, but how does the rest of the soul holders who are staking the network feel about like a forced 2% commission? Because there are a lot of people now, a good percentage of stake is on 0% validators. Mm-hmm. That might not be that cool for them to kind of be forced to be pumped up from that. I mean, 2% is not a crazy amount, but it's still it's something.
Yeah.
One note about that. When we compute scoring for validators, let's say you can have a 10% commission validator that, because of performance, comes on top of a 0% validator. So it's not only commission for Marinade. And at the start, we had the same idea. We intended to not stake on 0% commission, 0% commission, because that was unsustainable. Let's say you were dumping, more or less. But at the end, having a discussion with the validators that were early in the Solana, in the Marinade Discord, we came to the conclusion that no, we cannot do that, because sometimes it is required to have, let's say, 1 or 2 months, if you can, at 0% to start to build some stake. So at the end, we decided not to focus so much on commission, and not to disallow 0%.
Yeah, thanks, Lucio. Yeah, Michael, to your point, end time for foundation delegation. This is something I'm actually thinking about as well. I don't want it to be like, sort of this sort of, I'll say, infinite benefactorial relationship. One of the more near-term things we're looking at doing, and I know I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, and we're still sort of assessing what this is going to look like internally, so I don't have a ton of details to share right now, but we are looking at moving some of the management of foundation treasury out to different community initiatives. So one, to sort of decentralize like treasury management without totally letting the hands off the wheel, but also the delegation program shouldn't be like the only make or break staker that decides if a validator lives or dies. And I know that's not true right now. Like there's a ton of people that are solely dependent on foundation stake. And I don't want to, we don't want to be rugging anybody. I want as many validators like invested in the ecosystem as possible, and, providing some path forward for them to become sustainable without, depending heavily on one individual staker that is foundation. One other thing that's sort of in the works, and we're not quite here yet from like the level of like economic development of the network, but currently, when you look at, if you run the numbers as a validator, right, it's all about your commission and your stake, right? And there's only so much stake to go around, and so it does feel and act quite a bit like a zero-sum game, right? If I'm going to get more stake, that means it's got to come away from someone else. And when it comes to raw stake, like that's a little bit the nature of the game. But I think something that we're going to see evolving over the next handful of months is like additional value added services that a quality validator operator is able to provide, which could possibly, mean additional or alternative revenue streams, because you have the expertise and you are running a node. That things that are like not necessarily correlated or entirely dependent on how much stake is delegated to you. And so in that case, it's not so much about, or it's not so singularly about a validator, fighting for zero sum, but providing a, various mix of services. And so a validator operation is sort of like one entity or one person's, I'll say, access point to provide, whether it's decentralized RPC. There's some an interesting protocol that launched recently called Kronos that's doing like it's effectively like a decentralized cron job service that one can run and earn rewards, and you can run it on your validator node. There could be a future in which validators run like the Neon Labs is launching an EVM proxy on Solana. And it could be that, I don't exactly know what the economics are, but that such a proxy node benefits from being physically co-located in the same rack as a validator node. And so there's like a couple of different options here that are kind of in the not too distant future that might provide some, I'll say, other economic support for new or existing validators to could potentially move around the network or add other services that they can offer as means to make some additional revenue.
And one thing that I've wondered could be possible, and I know 7layers mentioned it before, but is, as the foundation considered maybe like sponsoring kind of some of the what do you call them? The programs where you're trying to get people to build things. So like something like from my side, like it'd be interesting to get sticky stake, and maybe instead of a direct like a direct USDC payment, but to kind of just make like say like my validator operation be self-supportive, right? So build something out, get stake. Maybe that makes sense, maybe it doesn't, but it is a potentially interesting idea.
Yeah, we've looked into that before. There's some like kind of legal considerations on our side for why like we've chosen not to do that. I will say though, like we do have a robust and growing grants pipeline for those that are interested. Solana.foundation/grants. We're working on putting out a bunch of new RFPs there in the next couple weeks. But like we're always open to people making submissions that they think are in the public interest. When we do any SOL that is issued as part of a grant from the foundation, like for kind of legal reasons, like comes with a 12-month withdrawal lock, which effectively means the one thing you can do with it is stake it. So it's sort of already doing this, which is like, here's the grant payment, that's yours, and you can stake it to your validator and accrue interest throughout. I know it's not exactly the same, but I just wanted to let you know that is there. So. Cool.
Dan, does the foundation, do they partner with stake pools, or is that kind of maybe what you're referring to? But I actually don't know. The answer is, do you guys provide foundation stake to stake pools?
Historically, we have not.
Yeah. Okay. That's the question I was asking.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions or comments? Yes, there is a hand up. Serial.
So I and my team, we actually participated in the hackathon, and we are building a DAO. And what we are aiming to do is we are trying to have a lot more validators created in places like Africa and South America. And the way we did it is we created some economical incentives around the DAO that allows for the creation of validators with some stake delegated to it, and not claiming the stake and letting the validators fully claim all the rewards from the staking. And so it permitted us to just have about anywhere between 2,000 to 2,500 to 7,000 SOL delegated to each validator. And we are primarily wondering, like, where specifically, what points of the Solana ecosystem we could target if, like, we have questions, or in terms of how we could get some help in general in just people with the ecosystem and just actually fully.
Hey, you cut out there for a second. If I understood you correctly, you were asking where you could get some help or support from the ecosystem in growing your project.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, first thing, if it's tech support you're looking for, I mean, our Discord is definitely the right place. Solana.com/Discord. If it's trying to attract more stake for the validators in your DAO, plenty of people on this call or in the validators channel will have lots of opinions on what might be a good idea for that. I'm not quite sure what else you were asking for that I can help you with in this context.
I was just wondering whether there were some extra resources that we could tap into.
For what specifically?
For example, maybe in terms of ease of communication with some people who might be trying to become validators in this area.
Oh, I see. Honestly, I think Twitter and like the validator support channels on our Discord are really like the primary places where I see a lot of that chatter happening. If anyone else here knows of places where, you know, beginner validators are having discussions but are not getting support or help that they need, please let me know. Particularly let Tim know, because that's his area these days.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Great. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining. And I'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It was a
Thanks,
pleasure.
everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.